Hi, kids. Okay, on this day in film history for August 15th, I'm going to talk about three films, one person, and for those of you who complain that Hollywood doesn't come up with any good ideas anymore or any original ideas, all three of these films are based on novels or short stories. So, anyways, starting off with 1939 is the premiere of The Wizard of Oz, premieres in Grauman's Chinese Theater in LA. The film directed by Victor Fleming, starring Judy Garland. You know about The Wizard of Oz. Did a video on Wizard of Oz, my greatest films of all time series. Mentioned in there, Wizard of Oz had three directors. Originally, Richard Thorpe was hired as the director. A couple weeks into production, he is replaced by George Cukor. Now, George Cukor doesn't actually film anything. He stops production and he reviews and makes some changes the appearance of Dorothy, things like that. The look of the film, George Cukor is largely responsible for. Some writing as well. Then he goes off and he starts production on Gone with the Wind. Victor Fleming comes in, replaces him, and then guess what? He is replaced on production Gone with the Wind. George Cukor is, and who replaces him? Victor Fleming. Okay, 1979 now, jumping to Apocalypse Now is released, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, of course, starring Martin Sheen. Again, if you're a fan of the film, you know most things that I would say about that. Opening part of the film with Martin Sheen drunk in the hotel room. That's real. It was his birthday. They got him drunk. Francis Ford Coppola taunted him, called him a pretty boy, really smashed the mirror. He really was bleeding. John Milius is the writer for this, adapted Heart of Darkness, basically because his USC film teacher told him that no one was ever able to adapt it. Took that as a challenge. John Milius, very interesting guy. I mentioned in my video for that, he is the inspiration for the character of Walter, the Big Lebowski. There's also a character based on him in American Graffiti, USC friends with George Lucas. Also, apparently, is responsible for coming up with the octagon shape for UFC. So, one of the early proprietors, influencers, financiers, maybe, of UFC. Cool. Yeah, interesting guy. Let's drop to 1986 is the release of The Fly. David Cronenberg, he's Canadian, directed film starring Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis. It is based on a short story from 1957. There is the 1958 version starring Vincent Price. There's also the Return of the Fly with Vincent Price. Both Flies, pretty good, very different. The film made $60 million at the box office and won Best Makeup at the Academy Awards. Now let's talk about a person. 1928 is the birth of Nicholas Roeg. Died in 2018. He was 90 years old. Had some great filmography, especially in the 70s. There's Don't Look Now, can't not mention that. The Man Who Fell to Earth, Walkabout, Performance, many others. Someone who could take a script and sort of color it in, if you will, fill it in, flesh it out. Known for his cinematic style, his editing style. He started 19 years old, British born, as a T-boy on sets, slowly worked his way up camera department, and then he was a cinematographer. He was the second unit cinematographer on David Lean's epic Lawrence of Arabia, and then on his next film, he is the cinematographer to Dr. Zhivago, and then he starts eventually making directing his own films. I wonder if seeing like the match cut and the editing in Lawrence of Arabia inspired him for some of his bolder, non-linear editing style. Anyways, that's it for On This Day in Film History. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe.